At this time, we'll call Dr. Gerhardt Konig to stand. Doctor, please.
You do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Please have a seat. Okay. If you could please state your full name for the record and for the members of the jury.
Gerhardt Konig,
Gerhardt, how old are you?
47,
Where were you born?
South Africa.
And were your parents from South Africa?
Yes.
What are their names, and are they still alive, and are they still married?
Yeah, Peter and Emil, they're alive and married.
Okay. And they've been here, is that them here in the front row today?
That's them.
Where do they live now?
San Diego.
Growing up, what did your parents do for work?
My dad's a pharmacist, and in South Africa, my mom didn't work.
How long did you live in South Africa? Or maybe a better way to ask that is, how old were you when you moved from South Africa?
I was 14.
And where did you move to at that age?
San Diego.
Who moved with you to San Diego at that time?
My parents and my younger sister.
So what grade were you in when you moved to the United States?
9th grade.
Did your dad find work as a pharmacist?
Yes.
What did your mom do in San Diego?
She ran a home daycare.
Siblings?
Yes, 2 older brothers and a younger sister.
What year and what high school did you go to, and what year did you graduate?
I went to Rancho Bernardo High School, and I graduated in 1996.
By the way, was growing up in South Africa, was English your first language?
No,
What was?
Afrikaans.
After graduating from high school, did you go to college?
I did.
And where'd you go?
UC San Diego,
What did you major in?
bioengineering.
Now, the jury has heard about how later in life you married Arielle Konig. Was that your first marriage?
No,
Okay. Were you married before that?
I was, yeah.
And to who?
Jesse Patella Ray.
Okay. How old were you when you and Jesse got together?
16 or 17, 11th grade in high school.
And then how old were you when the two of you got married?
20.
After graduating from college, what did you do?
I worked as a bioengineer for 5 years.
Okay. Doing what kind of work?
It was a biotech startup company. We were doing tissue engineering.
Okay. We don't need to get into exactly what that is, but it's in the field of bioengineering.
Yeah. So specifically, we were growing tissue engineered blood vessels. And so we were taking skin cells from a person and culturing them in the lab and growing large diameter blood vessels specific to them so they can use it for hemodialysis access or cardiac bypass grafts.
And where were you living when you were doing this work?
In Marin County, just north of San Francisco.
Okay, in California, but up by San Francisco.
Yes.
Did you and Jessica have kids while you were working and living in San Francisco?
Yes, 2 kids.
What are their names?
Ophelia and Emile.
What years or how old are they?
Ophelia is almost 25 and Emil is 20.
Now, the jury has heard that you're a medical doctor. After doing this work in tissue genesis for a while, where'd you go to medical school?
At the University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
And is that a good medical school?
It is. It has a really good reputation, yeah.
So Ophelia and Emil were born before you started medical school? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you choose Pittsburgh?
Because of the reputation of the school and because the cost of living in Pittsburgh was low.
And you had the 2 young kids.
I had two young kids, and I wasn't going to make any money, and it was a great place to go to school.
Did you graduate from medical school in 4 years?
Yes.
What year did you graduate from medical school?
2010.
After graduating from medical school, what did you do?
I did a 1-year internship, and then I did a 2-year research fellowship.
What was the research fellowship in?
It was an NIH-funded fellowship at the University of Pittsburgh, and I did mostly blood transfusion research. Specifically, I was working on autotransfusion. It's when you take a patient's own blood that they're losing in the operating room, figuring out ways how to give it back to them safely.
Okay. Did you and was that in the Pittsburgh area?
Yes.
Did you eventually do a residency?
Yes.
And in what field did you do your residency?
Anesthesiology.
If you could explain to the jury, what is anesthesiology? I mean, we all kind of know what it is, but generally, how do you define anesthesia?
Yeah, anesthesiologists it's a specialty of medicine, and we're trained to acutely treat organ system failure and techniques to limit pain and awareness. And so basically what we do is we take care of patients that are either very ill or injured, and we keep them alive until they can get patched up. And we make sure that they don't feel or remember anything.
Okay. And why did you choose anesthesiology for your residency, and did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, I loved it. It's all hands on, which is kind of what my personality is and my background in engineering. So I like that about it.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean that was
So you enjoyed it.
yeah.
Now, what years were you doing your residency in anesthesiology?
2013 to 2016
And where was your residency at?
in Pittsburgh.
Now, you mentioned your residency 2012 to 2016. Did you at some point you and Jessica got divorced?
Yes.
Or approximately when was that? Or
And we separated in 2014. Yeah.
during your residency?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after 15 years of marriage, and we tried to make it work. We got married very, very young.
Okay. Did you after that you guys were both living in Pittsburgh,
Yes.
and were you involved in Emil and Ophelia?
Oh yeah, 50-50 custody.
50-50 custody.
Mm.
You finished your residency in 2016. What did you do for work when you're done with your residency?
I was hired as an anesthesiologist by UPMC. I worked at UPMC McGee Women's Hospital, and then I was also hired by University of Pittsburgh as a part-time assistant professor.
As a part-time what?
Assistant professor.
Okay, so in terms of your work that you were you doing clinical work, actually treating patients in the hospital?
Yeah. So 4 out of 5 days, I was doing clinical work, anesthesiology, and basically 1 day a week. So 20% of my time I was doing teaching and research.
And so teaching, who were you teaching?
Anesthesiology residents, mostly at the hospital. And for the last 3 years that I was in Pittsburgh, I was the site director for the anesthesiology residency at my hospital. So I was in charge of the teaching of the residents at the hospital there.
And that was all in Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Okay, now, after separating from your first wife, did you at some point start dating again?
Yes.
And did you try out dating apps?
Yes.
How'd that go?
I used some free dating apps in the beginning and met some people and finally signed up for a paid app, eHarmony.
eHarmony. And after you signed up for eHarmony, is that how you met Arielle?
Yeah, she actually found me on there and we connected on there and chatted on there for a little while. And I think we connected in February of 2016, and then we met in the bar at the end of March 2016.
Your first time you met her, first date-ish, what you want to call it, was at a bar?
Yes.
In Pittsburgh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then did you guys continue to see?
Yes.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I should correct you. And after that, did you guys continue dating?
Yes.
I think you said you met in 2016?
Yes.
Okay. When did you and Arielle get married?
2018.
Between 2016 and 2018, where were you living?
We were both living in Pittsburgh in like kind of different suburbs of the city. She lived north of the city, close to where she worked, and I lived kind of to the west of the city. We were about an hour apart, but so we spent 1 week at my house with the kids when we had the kids, and then we'd spend 1 week at her townhouse up north.
And that was in Pittsburgh?
In Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were working in the job you just described to us?
Yes.
Now, after your first divorce, you had 2 kids. Did you want to have more kids with?
I did.
With Ari?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I had that in my profile on online dating and.
That you wanted to have more kids?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you and Miss Konig have kids together?
Yes, 2 kids.
And what are their names? And tell us when they were born.
Olin was born right in the middle of COVID, May 2020. And Vigo was born just a few weeks before we moved to Maui in 2023.
Just a few weeks before Maui?
Yeah.
Okay. In 2023?
Yeah.
So you guys are still living in Pittsburgh when, well, at least Olin, 2020, you guys are in Pittsburgh. Did there come a time when you and Arielle decided to make a move and move to Hawaii?
Yeah.
Tell us about, why that came up and what was the interest and if it was a joint decision.
Yeah, it was a joint decision. And this is something that, we kind of bonded over ever since we met. And we both love Pittsburgh and love the city and the town and Steelers fans, but we wanted to move somewhere where the weather's a little nicer. And she knew I had family in California, and so we had talked about that for a while. And then after we started having kids, we started talking about it some more and realized that actually our main priority is safety and just finding kind of a place where we can raise our kids in a safe environment.
What do you mean by safety?
Just like the random gun violence, like school shootings and things like that,
Okay.
were really concerning for us. We wanted to go to somewhere where that's relatively rare or,
Okay.
or,
And
or less of a concern.
how did you guys decide on Maui?
I came to Oahu actually once during residency, when I was doing my research fellowship, and just kind of fell in love
Okay.
with the atmosphere. There's just kind of a joy to life here, and the tempo is just
Okay.
different than anywhere else that I've been in the United States.
Okay. So you
And
guys
then-
decide on Maui.
Well, and then we went to Maui for our honeymoon
Okay.
and our friend's honeymoon too, and that's kind of how we got introduced to Maui.
Got
Yeah.
it. Got it. Now, you said that, it was a joint decision about kind of putting the kids first and safety.
Yeah.
Was it moving from Pittsburgh to Maui, was it going to have an impact on both of your careers? And let's start first with yours. Tell the
Sure.
jury how was it, if any, gonna affect your?
Yeah, it was going to have a big impact on my career. So I was going to have to give up the teaching and the research completely. And my job in Pittsburgh was at an academic medical center. And even when I wasn't working for the university, I was interacting with students and residents and things like that.
And on Maui,
On Maui, it was just going to be like a
Clinical.
community hospital, and so kind of
Okay.
very, very different.
And what about the research part of your job?
Yeah, so I have to give all that up.
And you're willing to do that?
Yeah, we were basically committed, both of us, to going somewhere where we could focus on the family and slower pace of life, at least until the boys were out of high school.
Okay. So now you just shared about the effect it's going to have on your career. What about Arielle's career? Explain to that. She talked about being, at least for a while, in the nuclear industry. So when this decision was being made about moving, what was going on with her career, and what was how was this going to?
Yeah. So by the time we made the decision to actually move, which was like in the summer of 2022, it actually didn't affect her career that much. If we had made that decision earlier, it would have had a much bigger impact.
Why wasn't it going to affect her career that much? At that point?
So she was working. So before COVID, she was working 100% in-house, full time, and then during COVID, her job went remote, like most people's jobs did. And then during COVID, we also had Olin, and she realized at that point that she didn't want to go back to working in person again.
Okay.
That she felt she could accomplish a lot more at home, working and just be much more efficient. And it also allowed her to just be home more with the kids and the family.
Was she still?
And
was she still in the nuclear industry when you guys decided to move?
No. So and then she actually quit her job a few months before we started talking seriously about moving.
Okay.
And she was applying to jobs at software companies and other industries and nuclear as well. And then we decided to move, and so this was all kind of happening at the same time.
Okay. And was she able to get this job? She talked about a TerraPower that allowed her to work virtually.
Yes. And so she was actually hired, I think, like as I was interviewing in Maui, she got hired at TerraPower. So she started her job at TerraPower while we were still in Pittsburgh.
Okay. But they were going to allow her to.
And then after the move, yes. So she got a fully remote job based out of Pittsburgh for this company that's based in Seattle. And then we moved to Maui, and then she kept working for the same company.
Okay. I want to ask you, Emil. So Ophelia is older than Emil?
Yeah.
Okay. So but when you guys start thinking about moving, how old was Emil, and how did that factor into the timing of when you were going to move and if?
So Emil is actually the reason we moved when we did.
Okay.
So,
Explain that.
Yeah. So Ari and I had talked for a while about, moving out of Pittsburgh, and the trigger was going to be when Emil graduated high school.
You guys are waiting. You guys are going to wait till he graduated.
Yeah, because we didn't want to leave
Okay.
him, and we didn't want to ask his mom if we could take him.
So what happened?
He basically talked us into letting him ask his mom, and because he's like, if you guys are going to go somewhere sunny after high school, I want to go with you, and I want to go before high school is over because I want to move somewhere earlier so I can make friends and kind of get connected to the community. And I said, I don't think your mom's going to let you leave. And he said, let me just talk to her. And after months of that, I said, okay, if you want to ask her, you can. And he asked her, and she actually said yes. And so that triggered us to kind of say, oh, shoot, now we can
go
we can
earlier.
move now. We can move earlier. And so
Let me ask you about that. So at this point, Emil was about what age?
15.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he talked about how, you were married and while he was growing up, and then how old was he roughly when you guys got divorced, you and his mom? Roughly.
9.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from when he was born till 9, you obviously very active in his life. Is that right?
Yes.
And then after that, you had him every other week. Is that right?
Yes.
And then come a time now he's 16, and he's actually asking if he can go to Maui with you. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, we've had a really good relationship.
Okay. And so that kind of made the timeline where you guys could go sooner. Is that right?
Yes.
And what about Ophelia? By the time you guys were moving, was she already over 18?
Yeah, she was over, and she had moved out of the house already, and
Okay.
so yeah, she didn't come to Maui with us.
Okay. Now, so when you first moved here, did Emil then finish high school in Maui?
Yes, Maui High.
We heard about how Miss Konig's parents, or Arielle's parents, also moved to Maui. How did that happen?
Yeah, no, that was really nice actually, how it worked out. But because we didn't have any family here,
Okay.
and two young boys, but when we told them we're moving to Maui from Pittsburgh, and they were living in Florida at the time, they said that that's too far, and they actually decided
away from you guys.
Yeah, and so they decided they're going to move to California because they didn't want to move to Hawaii, but they'd never been to Hawaii, and so they had this trip planned where they were going to go look at a few different places in California, and we convinced them to come to Hawaii too for a few days, just to basically, visit with us.
And trying to see if they like it.
We just told them, just come visit with us and we'll show you where we're going to live.
Yeah.
This was right before we actually moved. And
Did they like it?
in less than 24 hours, they were like, we're coming here. Yeah.
And that was okay with you?
Yeah, it was great because they ended up buying a house just down the street from our house, and we see them, we would see them all the time, and they're a big help with the kids, and it was just nice to have family.
So when did you guys move then to Maui?
So I had to give 6 months notice at my job. So I got a job offer in like August of 2022, but we didn't end up moving until end of February of 2023.
Okay. And your job offer on Maui was what?
So the group's called TMG, and we're the only anesthesiology group on the island. It's a private practice group. And
So you applied with them?
Yeah.
And they hired you?
yes.
So I know this is a big question, but I'm going to ask you to kind of just maybe summarize. You get here to Maui, March 2023. You got these 2 young kids. Your son's here. Your in-laws are here. You got a job. What was life like for you and your family from March 2023 until December 2024? Can you summarize what it was like?
Yeah, it was amazing. The move was a little stressful at first getting here, but once we were here and settled in, it was our dream life. So we bought a house really close to the hospital so I could walk to work. And it also meant that I could take all my call shifts from home. And whenever I was done at the day, I could be home in a few minutes. And it translated into me being home a lot more than I was in Pittsburgh at my previous job. And so that meant that I was spending a lot more time with the kids and with Ari and with Emil. I was doing a lot of home improvement projects. And then as a family, we were doing lots of exploring. Like every weekend we would explore Maui. We did a lot of beach activities. We went to the beach almost every weekend, snorkeling, surfing, paddleboarding, hiking.
Okay, so it was a good life.
Yeah, we made a bunch of friends through my work and through Olin's preschool, some of his friends and friends' parents, and we were getting settled in.
Yeah. And let me ask you, Arielle, when you testified, when the detective asked her about how the marriage was before December 2024, she said it was a good marriage. Do you agree with that?
I thought it was a great marriage, yeah.
Okay.
I totally agree.
I just had a question. That being said, during that time period, did it ever come up that area between that time period, did moving back to the mainland ever come up?
It did. So her job, and when she was first hired by Terra Power, they had asked her to move to Seattle. And they said, hey, would you move to Seattle? And she said no.
Okay.
And then a few times they had kind of asked her again, if she would consider that.
Okay.
And our plan was always to at least stay in Maui until the kids graduate high school. and then we can kind of focus on our careers again and let the career drive the decisions.
Now, I was asking a little bit about your marriage during that time period, and this came up with Arielle. In your marriage back then, who handled the financial affairs more so, like, taxes, life insurance, finances between the two of you?
I did.
Okay. And why was that so?
I'm a very meticulous kind of person that keeps track of everything, and so it's just kind of more naturally in my,
Pretty organized.
Yeah.
Did you have, like computer files with different, insurance, taxes?
Yeah. And all of our things were joint. We didn't have any separate anything, and so, I ended up taking care of most of those things.
And those computer files,
and they were all in a shared drive that we shared, and so she had access to everything, and she contributed and as well. But I took care of most of it.
Okay. And you would kind of from time to time look into the files or update the files, or
all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Now, you just described a great life and great marriage. Did there come a time in 2024, Gerhardt, when that changed?
Yes.
First of all, in 2024, at some point, well, let me ask you this preliminary. Did Arielle have to travel for work?
She did. Yeah.
Okay. And that's because she was working virtually?
Yeah. Just like three or four times a year.
Okay. Did there come a time in 2024 when Arielle traveled to South Africa for work?
Yes.
Do you remember when that was roughly?
At the end of August of 2024.
And who was she going with, to your knowledge, at the time?
It was a pretty important trip for her because it was just the CEO of the company, another man that was high up in the company called Jeff Miller, and herself.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you this. By the way, when you guys were on Maui working, and she was working virtually, like, where was she actually doing her work? Like, when she was working?
Yeah, she had a home office set up, but it was
in her house.
In our house,
Okay.
but it was in our bedroom. So, and there was no divider or anything between it. So her desk was basically right next to our bed. So like a third of the space in the bedroom was taken up by her office.
And what were her hours? Was she on Seattle time? She started?
Mostly West Coast time, sometimes East Coast time. So she would usually get up
Early.
either 4 or 5 a.m. and start work around there, and then work until around 2 p.m.
So were you, because it was in your bedroom, were you exposed a lot to her work and her things she was doing and the people?
She has a huge monitor on her desk. She has one of those desks that can go up and down.
Okay.
And it's facing into the room, and all of her meetings are on speakerphone.
Okay. Prior to this, leading up to this South Africa trip, you mentioned did she go with a man named Jeff Miller?
Yes.
Did you have any concerns about Jeff Miller at that time?
No.
I know you mentioned no concerns, but was there anything weird on that trip, behavior-wise, that you took notice of? The South African trip?
Yeah, it was a really quick trip. It was just 2 nights. But the one weird thing was that on the second night, I remember noticing that she never contacted me at the end of the day. And that's kind of out of character. Whenever she went on work trips, she would always kind of check in at some point. And, at the end of the day, even usually we would check in several times during the day as well. And just through text, we would text a lot. And the one night on that trip, she never reached out. And I was at work, and by the time I got home and realized that she hadn't reached out, I knew she was asleep, and so I didn't reach out to her either. But normally she would reach out to me when she's done with her work day.
Did you see much of it at the time, or?
No, I took note of it, and I asked her about it, and she just said, like, I'm so sorry. We got back late from dinner with the hosts who were hosting us, and I'm sorry. I should have texted, but I didn't.
Now, she returns from South Africa. Later on in 2024, did you and your family go on a trip to Kauai?
We did, yeah.
When was that, roughly?
In October. I think it was October. Yeah, we told Emil as a graduation present, we'll take him to one of the other islands that he hasn't been to yet for a little trip, and he picked Kauai.
He picked Kauai. Now, did anything happen on this Kauai trip that made you become concerned to a degree about Mr. Miller?
Yeah, a little bit. What
happened? Tell the jury what happened.
Yeah, so we were there at the end I think from like Thursday to Monday or something like that. So it overlapped with her work week a little bit, and she was able to take most of the time off, but there was a few meetings that she still had to do that she couldn't. And so and they're early morning meetings because they were West Coast time, and I just overheard her talking to him on the phone and from the other room, and it just seemed that they had a very familiar tone, more so than what I was used to, the way that she used to talk to him and the way that she talked to her other work colleagues.
Now, you get back from Kauai after the trip, from October to December. Did you notice any other red flags or concerning behavior?
Yeah. So, I mean,
what happened?
The biggest, the only thing that I noticed was that she was constantly on her phone. She was just constantly on her phone.
Was that more so than usual?
Yeah, much more than usual. And she would hide the screen from me. So,
what do you mean by that?
Like, if you're sitting next to somebody and they're on their phone, like, you can just notice that they're sitting in a way. They're constant. They're always just like moving their.
What if you like walked into a room when she was on?
Yeah, when I walked in the room, she would turn the screen off or turn her phone upside down.
Did you ask her about it?
I did several times, and she would always say, "I'm talking to Gianna. I'm talking to Gianna," which is her best friend.
Gianna?
Gianna's her best friend.
So you did ask her about it a couple of times.
Yeah, more than a couple.
And you continue to see this concerning. Well, was this behavior concerning to you?
Yes.
And
I was just I was curious.
Okay.
I was concerned. You're right.
And did she told you it was, don't worry, it's just Gianna?
Yeah, and she was like defensive about it.
Okay. Now, what did that lead you to do in early December? All this behavior, red flags.
No, when she kept doing it and she kept being defensive, I unlocked her phone.
Okay.
And while she was sleeping.
Now, do you recall when you did this? There's been talk about a San Luis Obispo trip, right? Were you guys going to go on a trip in December?
Yes. And
with who?
With our friends Bryant and Gianna.
And so what day of the week were you going to leave for the trip, if you recall?
So Ari and Gianna were going to be there on Wednesday.
Okay.
And Bryant and I were going to join them on Thursday.
So the girls were going first?
Yeah, and then we were all staying there until Sunday.
The girls were going to go spend a night together?
Yeah, so they had like a girls' day planned, and they wanted to just go for the first day. The trip was mostly for Gianna's birthday. So
that was going to be on a Wednesday. When did you look into her phone?
On Monday night.
Okay, right before the trip, a couple of days before the trip.
Yeah.
So tell the jury what you discovered.
So Monday night, when I looked at her phone, I went to the screen time application on the iPhone, and then I noticed that the app with highest usage was an app called WhatsApp. And I was
What is WhatsApp?
WhatsApp is a communications app. So it has texting, it has voice calls and video calls. So instead of using your phone's built-in texting or voice or video, you go through WhatsApp.
Okay.
And it's separate from the phone.
So then once you saw that?
Yeah. So then.
Well, first of all, I mean, was that surprising to you?
It was. I had not seen her on WhatsApp at all over the previous months. And so I was very surprised about that. And then I also saw that she had turned off all the notifications for WhatsApp. So she had everything silenced for WhatsApp. And then, and it wasn't like on the main screen. It was like a couple pages over in a folder. So it was kind of hidden.
So did you open the WhatsApp?
Yeah. So I opened the WhatsApp.
What did you see?
And there were 2 conversations with Jeff Miller. And the way WhatsApp works is that your account is always linked to a phone number. And so the one conversation was a conversation with his work phone, and the other conversation was a conversation with his personal phone.
Okay. And so let's talk about the conversation with his personal phone. Tell the jury what you saw.
Yeah, it was. So what I saw, so this was Monday night. What I saw was that the messages from Monday and from Sunday, so the previous 2 days, it was like a full-on conversation the entire day long. And it would start off. Yeah, and it would start off at like 2 a.m. Hawaii time. So, and Jeff Miller lives in Maryland. and he travels extensively for work. Like he probably travels 3 out of every 4 weeks. And I know this because I'm always hearing them on the phone and talking about that. So basically, wherever he was, he'd be texting her good morning, but it wasn't just like a good morning text. It was like 5 or 6 texts. It's like a whole, like a good morning. I had a great, I slept great. I'm looking forward to the day. I hope you're sleeping great. And then at like 5:45 a.m., her good morning.
She would be responding.
She would respond. And then the whole day long, like, this is where I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm thinking until, good night at the end of the day. And that was for Sunday and Monday. Okay. So for the 2 previous days.
So Sunday is a weekend, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you saw on a Sunday, we saw the text from December
she's
1st.
I'm at work. I'm on call for the weekend, and she's at home decorating and hanging out with the kids and
texting
him all day.
Okay. And
then
go ahead.
When I scroll back past that, it's very strange because then between so the thread was created on June 4th or something like that, because WhatsApp puts when the thread was created in the app.
Okay.
And there was no messages between June 4th and August 30th, which was like a few days after the South Africa trip. And then between August 30th and Sunday, it was very strange because there's like fragments of conversation or little short things, and then mostly just pictures and songs and links. And it was basically Jeff sending her a bunch of pictures of himself, a bunch of song links that she had saved, and her sending him like a bunch of pictures too of.
Did you, when you said it was strange because there was things missing, did it seem to you like things were being deleted?
Well, yeah, because obviously that was. I mean, there was an abrupt cutoff between like what's before Sunday and Monday and that conversation and then everything else that was on there.
Let me ask you this: seeing all of that. Here you are, a couple of months now, you had some suspicion, some red flags. Asked her about it a couple of times. She denies it, defensive. Now you open it up and you see this.
Yeah.
Tell the jury how you felt. How did it make you feel?
I was devastated. There's obviously something going on, and
So
I didn't know what to do.
Okay. So what did you do?
So I had actually started using WhatsApp myself when we moved to Maui, because that's the main communication platform that the anesthesiology group uses. And so I was using it every day, communicating with the rest of the group and during our business meetings. And so I knew that WhatsApp, since even though it's primarily an app on your phone, there's a web interface. You can log into WhatsApp on your computer through the browser as well. And it'll basically just duplicate everything that's on your account.
Then what did you do the next?
So I took her phone upstairs to my computer, which is in the hallway upstairs, and I logged into her WhatsApp on my computer.
So you could watch her.
So I could see, because
Okay. You mentioned being devastated. I mean, prior to this, did you have any, aside from, we talked about the red flags, but marriage-wise, I mean, everything seemed okay?
Everything seemed fabulous. We were we were very happy together. No red flags in terms of the marriage itself.
Okay. So now you want to learn more. You go into what do you call it, like detective mode kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you logged on and you're able to watch her. And did you do so the next day?
Yes. Excuse me. Yes.
Tell the jury what you saw the next day?
So the next day it was basically the same type of thing that they were doing on Sunday and Monday. So they start off by saying good morning, and then just wasn't communication the entire day. But this day she started deleting messages, and so one of the first things that she did is she deleted all of the messages from Sunday and Monday.
Okay, so when you went, make sure you put the mic a little closer. So when you saw the messages the night before,
yes,
and now you're looking at it on the computer next day, and those messages you saw the night before are deleted.
Yes.
Okay, and then what?
And then I saw them communicate kind of in real time, because I could see it pop up on my screen too. And as soon as the conversation proceeded, kind of past, she would kind of keep deleting the previous messages. So she was like, well, not deleting them in real time, but like throughout the day, she was deleting the previous messages.
And the content of the communications and what was being deleted, again, was it concerning?
Yeah, I mean, it was the same type of conversation that she was having with him on the previous 2 days, which is not a conversation you have with a coworker. This is a conversation you have with your spouse. I mean, this is yeah.
And after watching that all day long, what did you conclude? I mean, in terms of what was going on,
Did
you believe?
I mean, she was having an affair.
Okay. Let me ask you this: while that was, did you, because she was deleting these things, did you try to save some of the messages?
Yeah. So the first thing I did actually the night that I unlocked her phone, because on WhatsApp you can also export the thread basically and save the thread, and so I exported the thread to my phone, so I had copies of what was on there when I first discovered it, and then the next day on my computer, the only thing I could do on the web interface is take screenshots.
Okay. And you took some.
Yeah.
All right. So now you are faced with, this. You got this trip in a day or two. Do you confront Arielle right away?
Not right away. So the way that this was happening was that our trip to San Luis Obispo, there's no direct flights from Maui to San Luis Obispo, and so we coordinated that the layovers were going to be in Phoenix, which is where Brian Gianna lives. And Ari was taking a red eye on Tuesday night. And so on Tuesday, when I was first discovering and watching this kind of in person for the first time,
let me stop you there, just to help the jury. So Monday night is when you first found the WhatsApp chain, is that right?
Right. So Monday overnight, Tuesday morning, I wake up and I start looking at them interacting in
throughout the day,
during the day.
And then Arielle's supposed to leave that night.
And so she's supposed to leave that night.
Do you confront her before she leaves?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so she leaves. Who do you first reach out to talk to about this?
Yeah. So on Wednesday night, I'm supposed to leave to fly to Phoenix to meet Bryant and then go to San Luis Obispo.
Okay.
And Wednesday, like in the middle of the day, I call him and talk to him.
Okay. And why did you call Bryant? Talk to him about it.
A few different reasons. One was that we were, about to go on this trip with them, and I wasn't able to. Like, I knew I was going to have to confront her as soon as I got to San Luis Obispo. So now it's Wednesday, and I'm convinced of, I'm seeing what they're doing, especially what she was sharing with them on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, she was spending all day in San Luis Obispo with Gianna, and she's basically keeping him up to. I mean, first thing is, like, as soon as she lands in Phoenix in the morning, she's like, just landed. I have an hour and a half. If you're free, we can chat. Can't wait to talk to you.
Is she texting you, keeping you up to date?
Like, I'm getting, I also got a just landed text, but like nothing else,
Okay.
but she's like, reaching out to him and on WhatsApp, like, you can see when a message has been read. And so as soon as she saw that he read her just landed text, she called him, like, right, she didn't wait for him to respond.
Okay.
And stuff. And like, I'm not getting a call. I'm not getting any of this stuff. And then during the day, she's sending him pictures of the places that they're of her and Gianna doing stuff. And
so you're seeing this.
So I'm seeing this, and that's at that point I'm just like, I can't go to San Luis Obispo and not confront her about this right away. Like,
and going back to Bryant, right? So I know. Yeah. Did you guys have like fun activities planned? It was supposed to be a fun couple.
Yeah. So I mean, it was supposed to be a couple's trip, right? And it was Gianna's birthday, and actually Ari planned it because she used to work for, one of the power plants that that was her responsibility for refueling is just outside of San Luis Obispo. So she used to travel to San Luis Obispo all the time for work. And so
were you
planned like
a bunch of
reaching
activities out to Brian and you said there's several reasons. Was one of it to kind of let him know, like, hey, this might not be the fun trip we had planned?
So the first reason was like, hey, like, this is, I'm just giving you a heads up, like, I'm going to confront Ari with basically an affair.
Was there other?
And then the other reason was that, the other reason why he's my best friend and I wanted some advice, but I specifically wanted advice from him because they had just gone through infidelity in their relationship like 6 months earlier. Brian and Gianna. And so
they were dealing with that.
Yeah. And so he had been dealing with this and I was looking for advice and just needed a friend.
Just to be clear for the jury, in that situation though, was it reversed?
It was, yeah. Brian had like a one night stand and Gianna found out about it.
So they had been dealing with
him
that.
Out of the house and stuff. Yeah.
And so you talked to Brian.
Yes.
Okay. do you fly up on the trip?
Yes.
When you get there, do you confront Arielle right away?
Almost right away. I mean, like right when we get there, they already have dinner reservations and stuff like that waiting for us. And so we go to dinner, and right after dinner, when we go back to the hotel, is when I confront her.
Did you talk to Gianna before you confronted Arielle?
Very briefly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you told her what you had found.
I basically just gave, I told her briefly what I had found, and then left to go talk to Ari, and left Bryant to explain to her more.
So, where do you confront Ari? Were you in the hotel room?
In the hotel room.
Confront her with it. Tell the jury how that went and what Arielle's initial reaction was.
Yeah, I confront her with it, and she's immediately remorseful and doesn't deny anything. It admits to it and is crying and.
Let me ask you this: you say admits to it, and when Miss Konig testified, she kept using the term. You guys use the term emotional affair, but in that time period, what did she admit to? Having a
she admitted to having an affair. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
With Jeff Miller.
Yeah. She admitted this was completely inappropriate relationship.
Okay. And so you mentioned
we called it an affair from the start.
And you mentioned she was remorseful and crying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, here we are now in San Luis Obispo. This is going on. What was your emotional state like at the time? In other words, what were you thinking needed to happen? And you guys were going to try to work this out or not, or while you're on the trip?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was tough. I mean, a lot of emotions for sure, but Brian and John were really helpful, and we were away from the kids and away from work and away from everything else, so we can kind of just focus on this.
Okay.
And
you guys reached some kind of conclusion as to whether or not you guys were going to break up or what?
Oh, yeah. So we both wanted to work on it. We both, well, she basically said, like, I'm so sorry, I can't believe I did this, and I'll do anything it takes to heal our marriage, and you and our kids are more important than anything to me, and I'll do whatever it takes. And we start talking to Brian and Gianna, and they kind of help us talk about some things, and we figure out what the next steps are going to be.
Now, during the trip in San Luis Obispo, did the topic of her possibly moving out come up?
Yes. That was one of the big conversations we had.
And did you guys settle in on, okay, she's not going to move out just right now, we're going to try?
Yeah. So I preferred for her to move out.
Do you mean like break up?
No. We were both committed to working on the marriage, but and this is what Brian and Gianna did too. So Brian ended up living in a hotel for like 3 months, and it helped them just focus on the affair and healing from the affair, and then they kind of moved back and kind of start working on everything else, and I felt that was an ideal solution.
Did she want to do that?
Well, both of us, we decided together not to do that, and because we had the two big complicating issues for us was one, our two little boys. So we at the time they were like 1.5 and 4.
So at this time when she was having this relationship with Mr. Miller, how old were the boys?
1.5 and 4.
Okay. And you're saying, obviously, if she moved out, it would have been traumatic on her.
Yeah, so we didn't want.
Okay. So it's okay. You guys decide to not do that then.
Yeah, we didn't want them harmed.
Okay.
But
so let me ask you this: in order for her to not move out, to avoid that harm. Sorry. Yep.
Thank you. Excuse me 1 second.
You want water?
Yes, please.
You mentioned the kids. Was there did Ari have other concerns about her moving out?
Yeah, and the other concern, and again, this was a joint decision, is that we wanted to protect her reputation with family and friends, and so Bryant was able to move out, and really nobody else knew. It was just Ari and I actually that knew, and that was it.
So in other words, if Ari moved out on Maui, you talked about you guys had formed a pretty good close group of friends. her parents?
We did. And everybody lived right there, and it's a small community, and I mean, people were going to know that she moved out and would ask why. And
so that was part of the joint decision.
Yes.
So you guys are up there, San Luis Obispo, decide that we're going to try. It's not going to move out. And what about where there's some talk about if we're going to do that, at least initially, was there some talk about what was needed to happen as it related to Jeff Miller and her job?
Yes.
What was that? Tell the jury about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, she obviously needed to terminate the affair immediately, but also to terminate all contact with Jeff Miller. And that would involve her quitting her job and getting a new job.
Initially, what did she say? I mean, was that something she was agreeable to initially?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And so we decided that was the plan. And she said she just needed a little bit of time. And so she didn't want to quit her job right away, but that she would limit contact with him. And so she actually sent him an email through work, like a work email, and said, basically, hi Jeff, from this point on, all of our communication needs to be in email only. If we do meet, because they would have virtual meetings all the time, if we do meet, it would have to be with one other person present. And she did this without talking to me, but showed it to me afterwards. Said, hey, this is what I did. Is that okay? I said, that's fine.
So the plan was that she was going to quit her job and maybe find a new job. But in the meanwhile,
for sure, she was going to quit her job and find a new job.
Okay.
But in the meanwhile,
there was going to be some boundaries related to her interactions with Miller.
Yes.
Okay. Was she supposed to go on another work trip with Jeff Miller soon after the San Luis Obispo trip?
Yes.
To where and when?
So the San Luis Obispo trip ended on Sunday. And on Sunday, I was going to fly back to Maui to take care of the kids. And she was flying to Seattle. And she had a week-long business trip in Seattle starting right after this trip.
Right after?
Mm-hmm.
She was going to go straight? And Mr. Miller was supposed to be there?
Yes.
Did you later learn anything about the hotel situation related to that?
Not even later. It was. I mean, so while we were in San Luis Obispo and while we're still talking about all these things, she, I told her basically, I'm not okay with you going to Seattle. And she said, no, I totally understand. And she said, I'm going to cancel that trip. And she admitted that she had changed her hotel from the hotel that she was supposed to stay in with her primary team that she works with at Terra Power to the hotel that Jeff Miller was in. And they already had dinner plans for Sunday night.
Okay. And then she canceled that trip.
But she canceled all of that. So she told work she had a family emergency and couldn't go. And so we flew back together to Maui on Sunday.
You get back to Maui on Sunday, and there was some kind of initial conversations about what needed to happen with her job and whatnot. When you get back to Maui, are you still kind of just trying to figure out how to deal with this whole situation?
Yes.
Did you tell anyone other than Gianna and Brian?
No.
And was that for the reasons you talked about earlier about Arielle's reputation?
Yes.
But we saw the email that you sent at some point to Mr. Miller's wife, right?
Oh, yeah. And I did that in San Luis Obispo.
Yeah. And that was in San Luis Obispo. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the day that I found out.
Yeah.
And that's not true. That's the day that I confronted her about it.
And why'd you do that?
I just felt that if I was in her shoes, I would want to know.
Okay. So now you get back to Maui, and to your knowledge, immediately after was as far as you knew, Arielle limiting contact with Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Did she ever start to look for a new job?
Yes, right when we got to Maui, she was updating her CV and her LinkedIn profile and looking for jobs.
All right. At some point, did you start listening to some audiobooks and trying to get some advice about how to heal from this?
Yes.
And what did you learn from those books about what, was necessary if you guys were going to even have a chance at this?
Yeah. So, listen to several books and talk to Bryant a lot. And there's a lot of different things that the books recommend, but the 5 main things are basically, the first is always to terminate the affair, obviously, and terminate all contact with other cheating spouse. And all the books talk about, if this is something at your workplace, you need to, quit your job or move departments or something like that, because it's something that's commonly happens between coworkers. And then the second thing is that, the cheating spouse needs to put in the work to understand all of the damage that they've caused to the relationship. And because it's not immediately apparent, just how deep the trust issues are going to impact things, and, potentially putting the family dynamics and the kids at risk and things like that. And all the different ways that you hurt your spouse. And so that was the second thing. The third thing is,
was there anything about privacy?
Yeah. So the one of the main things is actively rebuilding trust, and that means that you're going to have to proactively give up privacy and then also tolerate some invasion of privacy. Meaning basically you need to tolerate if your partner is saying hey, can I see your phone, for a sec and see who you're talking to, or hey, I can I see who you're emailing, so
Not get defensive.
and not get defensive. Yeah.
Okay. Now, and did you discuss those things with Arielle?
Yes.
Okay. And what was she doing these things?
In the beginning, and then very inconsistently the rest of the month.
Very well.
Very inconsistently the rest of the month.
So she was kind of initially willing to do some of these things, but then seemed to become unwilling.
Yeah. So basically, it seemed like her whole attitude changed really within a few days of us getting back to Maui.
Tell us about that.
She started minimizing the affair and trying to say that it wasn't a big deal. And she started blaming me for the affair and just saying well, you caused some of these things, and some of the, telling me some of the things that I was doing that, potentially contributed her doing.
Was she open to your questions about, hey, let me see your phone, or who are you calling?
On and off. She would get defensive and get irritated at me, basically asking those things.
So when she was kind of now backing off of some of the things you guys initially agreed to, did that cause you to kind of go into detective mode again and look into try to obtain more information about the extent of her relationship?
Yeah.
Okay. And
yeah.
What new information, if any, did you learn at that point?
So yeah, I was trying to talk to her about the affair and just trying to get more details, because we didn't talk about it in detail in San Luis Obispo. We were just kind of talking about big picture. Are we going to stay together?
Okay.
Are we going to move out?
She admitted
all
to
these
it,
things,
right?
Yeah, she admitted to it. And then later, a few weeks later, I was looking, and the two main things that I found out. Let me just back up. So I was trying to ask her more questions about the affair, and she wouldn't basically engage and answer questions. And so everything that I found out is I basically found out on my own. And I found out that when they were in South Africa, on our phone bill, actually, there's records of them texting just through regular text, up through past 10 o'clock on that night that she never got back to me.
Okay.
And then again, a 1-minute phone call at 5:30 the next morning, local time. And I was like, that seems odd. And then in that combined with in the work thread that they had on the WhatsApp, not the personal one, the work one, the next morning, they're talking about work stuff, but then they're also talking about how they can barely stay awake and they're both so tired and
that made you wonder.
Yeah, I just.
And what else did you learn? What else do you think did you
concern? And then the other thing was just the sheer scope of the number of deleted messages, because I saw that WhatsApp has statistics area where you can go to for the app that shows you how many total messages have been sent or received since the last reset of the app, and she had deleted over 10,000 messages during that time.
Over what period of time?
I'm assuming during, So the thread was created on June 4th, and I'm not sure when. She said that the affair started after the South Africa trip, is what she admitted to me. So it was either over 3 months or 6 months.
Okay, you start doing some
but it's 50 to 100 or 60 to 120 messages a day.
Okay.
If it's averaged throughout the whole day, and then 19 hours of phone and video calls too.
Okay. This is probably a dumb question, but did that make you feel better or worse about the situation?
It made me feel worse, and I was just feeling worse about the whole situation overall, because it takes some time to kind of kind of, process all the emotions involved with it and realize all the implications of this. Yeah.
Let me
So
ask you this.
I was getting worse definitely in December.
The new information that you discovered, did you discuss it with her or try to?
I tried.
And how did that go?
She really wouldn't engage about anything with the affair. She kept saying like, stop asking me questions. It feels like you're asking me 21 questions, like, things like that.
After, this new information and now it's kind of seems like it's regressing her attitude. Did you ever ask her to move out in December again?
I did. Yeah.
Tell us how many times?
2 times.
And what happened?
So the first time was around the middle of the month. And I just told her, like, you're not doing what you said you were going to do, which is to take accountability for your actions and to basically do whatever it takes to heal the marriage. And at that point in time, she became very apologetic and said, I'm so sorry. Like, you're right. Like, I'll do all those things. But again, that didn't last. And so
Was there a second time?
the second time was, and I remember the date because we had our first couples therapy session was scheduled for December 27th, and December 26th, we got into a big argument about the same thing. And I ended up sleeping on the couch that night. And
Did you ask her to move out?
And yeah, so I asked her to move out, and I ended up sleeping on the couch that night.
And again, okay, so
Yeah.
when you would bring up moving out, then she would say, "Okay, I'm sorry," and she would say she would recommit.
On the 26th, nothing was resolved that
Okay.
night. We just kind of got in a big argument, and I left and went to go sleep on the couch.
Now, were you having? I mean, again, probably a dumb question, but were you having a hard time with all of this?
Yes.
Did you? Could we pull up State's Exhibit S105? That's in evidence, please, Mr. Dirks. Did you turn to any sources to try and help yourself? Get some advice, get some healing. We talked about the audiobooks. There was this exhibit about Reddit as one after infidelity. What is that about? Were you looking at this? And tell the jury why, if you were.
Yeah, no, it's just a thread about people that are struggling with, finding out their spouses had cheated, basically,
Okay.
and advice and also just kind of, sharing stories so you feel like you're not alone.
Were you trying to get to a point where you could feel okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Was that what you're trying to do?
Yes.
In other words, you didn't rush straight to get out of here. I don't want to see you again. Kick you out of the house.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No.
But it was hard. Was it hard?
It was extremely hard. And
But you were the audiobooks, Reddit. You were trying to get to a good place. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, we can take that. By the way, there was this mention about the word Darvo the other day by
Yes.
Inuma. What is? I mean, did it come up on the Reddit thread?
It did.
And what is that about?
And I don't remember the acronym, but basically I came across it, and it's basically something that quite often happens. And so basically, the person that got caught having the affair, sometimes in the weeks after, they would try to turn the tide. So they would try to kind of take the spotlight off of them and move it to the other person, and basically say like, wow, but but you did this and this,
Okay.
And so it's
I think he said
a fairly
something
common thing that people try to do to just deflect.
defensive.
Yeah.
I think it was like attack. I forget what, but basically, it's there was actually a term for it.
Yeah.
And from what you read, it's when the person who did the cheating tries to deflect and kind of turn it back on you.
Exactly.
Did that resonate with you when you learned about that
Yes.
term, Darnell?
Yes.
And why was that?
Because that's what she was doing. Like, so throughout December, it just felt like she was, minimizing what she had done. And then she started bringing up all these things about our relationship, other things.
Okay. And I'm going to get to that. The audiobooks, can we pull up Exhibit D 126, please? Did you both listen to an audiobook called How to Help My Spouse Heal from My Affair? Or how to help your spouse heal
Yes.
from your affair? See that?
Yes.
And these are text messages between. So, what exhibit is this? Sorry. D 126. I believe it's in evidence. It is not. It is not. 1 second. Take it down. I apologize. So I did ask her about it. There was text messages between the two of you guys about an audiobook called How to Help My Spouse Heal from My Affair, correct?
Yes.
And is that something that an audiobook you both listened to in your efforts to try and get to a better place.
Yes. I know I listened to it, and she told me she did.
Now, you heard her testify that she told the detective that her interactions with Mr. Miller were some flirty texts. From what you saw back then and discovered, was that an accurate description of the extent of her relationship with Mr. Miller?
Not at all.
Proper impeachment. And prior inconsistent. Understand.
Let me ask that again. You had conversations with Arielle where she admitted to the affair, yes?
Yes.
You saw the communications that she had with Mr. Miller, correct?
Yes.
There was all this stuff you just talked about. You heard her say, and when the detective asked her about it, she said there was no affair, and she described it as flirty texts. From everything that you learned about this situation, was that an accurate description of what was going on between her and Mr. Miller?
No.
Sustained. That's censor stripping.
Isn't that? I'm sorry, I apologize. That's not the same question I asked a second ago?
No.
Okay, let me think of what that last question was. That from what you, let me ask you this. I apologize. Let me ask you this. From everything that you learned and you knew, was her relationship with Mr. Miller, can it accurately be described as just some flirty text?
No.
Sustained.
From what everything you learned and knew, was all that was going on between them flirty texts?
Objection. Same objection. Slightly different question. Overruled.
No.
Whenever there's a convenient break, we'll take our.
I think we're almost to a good place.
Just let me know.
Yeah, maybe 5-10 more minutes. Okay, if everyone's okay with that. Anybody? Okay. You know, we just talked about the audiobooks. Did she also admit in text messages to you that she had an affair?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at some point, do you guys start counseling?
Yes.
And what did you want counseling to be about?
About the affair.
Okay. And what did counseling turn into?
Mostly other things in our relationship. Also a little bit about the affair, but mostly other things in the relationship.
This might be a good time for a break.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a 15-minute recess. Ms. McCallum can get you at 2:40. Leave your notebooks on the chair. Presenting case number 12. Once you can see that 25.373. Gerhardt Konig is present in court on the stand and still back in the courtroom. Mr. Talkie, can we continue on with the direct examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. All right, Gerhardt, before we get back into the counseling, there were 2 exhibits I wanted to introduce, or at least attempt to introduce. This is exhibit 126. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So, you know, Gerhardt, we're talking about the audiobooks that you and I were kind of reading to get, bouncing off each other, learning from. Did you guys text each other about it?
Yes.
Can you just look through this text and look through this document and let me know, is that a fair and accurate depiction of the text messages you guys are having back then related to some of the audiobooks you were listening to?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, move to admit 126.
Mr. Garner. No objection. For the mark for identification as defendant's exhibit D126 is received evidence.
Mr. Dirks, can we please now publish the first page? So if we can blow up this top part here, how to help this one here, Mr. Dirks, please. So one of the books that she was willing to listen to was called How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair, yes?
Yes.
All right, we can take that down. I was asking you about if she admitted to you in text message about a secret affair. May I approach with 125? Yeah. May I approach her?
Yes.
Okay. I want you to just quickly thumb through that and get a quick look at it. Is this a fair and accurate depiction of the text messages between the two of you on December 9th about the affair?
Yes.
Your Honor, move to amendment 125.
Mr. Gerhardt, no objection. Court has been marked for identification of defendant. Exhibit D125 is received into evidence.
Can we, Mr. Dirks, publish it starting on the second page for now? Okay, can we blow up the top part? Just that first message. Okay. So this, Gerhardt, was this a message that you sent her?
Yes.
You engaged and continued an elaborate secret affair instead of coming to me and asking to work on our relationship. And can we take that down? And then at the bottom there, Mr. Dirks, can we blow up the response? And did she respond to you? If anything, I learned how stupid it was this time and know how to make sure it doesn't happen again. Is that what she texted you back?
Yes.
Okay, we can take that down. Now, Gerhardt, you mentioned starting counseling and how it was kind of, about the affair, but kind of turned out to be more about other things in your relationship. There was evidence the other day about this recording device. Did you purchase this audio recording device?
I did.
And why did you do it?
So what was going on, some of what was going on in December, and it kind of came to a head on that morning, right before our first counseling session,
Okay.
is that she said that, basically she's so upset about other things going on in the relationship that she wasn't sure if she wanted to stay with me, and then she kind of blurted out that Gianna thinks I'm a monster, and she had talked to her mom, and her mom also
Okay.
agrees that this isn't a big
And then
deal.
what
And
happened?
so I was really concerned and suspicious that she was basically lying to them and telling them a completely different version of what was going on in our relationship, and then also what the affair entailed.
Okay. And so the audio device was what?
So I was like, I have to catch her in a lie, basically. And so it was me like thinking like kind of like an engineer. How do I fix this? And I was like, I fix it by getting more evidence. And so yeah, so I bought that in the hopes of basically. So I was going to use it to record conversations that we would have, and then the two of us. And then if things weren't moving in the right direction, I can be like, listen, this is what you said. Listen, like this is what she's telling me, because if she's telling a different story to her mom Judy and to Gianna,
Okay.
then I could basically catch her in a lie.
Did you end up actually using it?
I tested it and figured out how to use it, and never actually used it for that purpose. We ended up not ever talking about the affair at home, and that was kind of one of the other things that she was able to do through therapy, is that we were not allowed to discuss the affair at home anymore.
Okay. And back at that time, where your head was kind of just spinning, and were you just trying to figure out how to get through it?
Yes.
Okay. So you start counseling, and you mentioned that you guys weren't talking about the affair at home anymore. And were you talking about it much at counseling?
In a little bit. So the counselor that we went to on Maui, the first couples counselor, was fantastic, and it was in-person counseling, and she really listened to us both and made us both feel hopeful, because she basically said, like, this isn't the end of the world, everything that I'm hearing, and as long as you guys are both committed to making this work, like, this is, we're going to get to a better place at the end of this. And so it felt very, very hopeful in that sense.
Okay.
But the counseling sessions themselves were focused on other things,
Okay.
and then also on like general kind of relationship building things.
All right. So heading
in
down,
those first few months.
in February, heading towards March, overall, how after you guys are in counseling for a little bit, and overall, how were things going?
Good, actually. I mean, I felt really hopeful, and in kind of hindsight, I would describe it as taking Tylenol when you're sick, right? It makes you feel better. It's not actually addressing the illness. It's not actually, you're not doing anything about the disease itself, but it felt better because we were learning, communication techniques. We were doing a bunch of exercises to kind of define what we wanted our relationship to be like at the end of this, and things like that.
And you mentioned not talking too much about the affair at home.
Yeah, and so we weren't allowed to talk about the affair at home, and either, so it kind of made home life easier,
okay.
in that sense too.
Let me ask you this: heading into March, were you still committed to trying to make this work?
Yes.
Heading into March, were you still hoping that you guys could work through it?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're into March, and as we've learned, Arielle's birthday is in March. The trip to Oahu, how did it come up?
I have to schedule my vacation basically 1 year in advance. So we plan vacation as a group, and we have to cover a bunch of different sites and stuff. And so we have like a vacation lottery like a year in advance. And so I had the week off of her birthday already.
Oh, you had scheduled from before? You'd scheduled your vacation around her birthday?
Yes.
Okay.
And so I had the week off for her birthday. That's one of the weeks that I had gotten off. And I always do that. I try to get her birthday off and my birthday off and things like that. And so I asked her, what do you want to do? And she said, well, we don't have to do anything, but I've never been to Oahu. I would like to go to Oahu at some point. It doesn't have to be this trip, but
Okay, let me stop you there. So the concept of going on a staycation to Oahu was first floated by who?
by her.
Okay. But to be fair, she said, but we don't need to do it. I don't know if it's the right time. And what did you say in response to that?
I said, there's no reason not to. I have the time off, and she could take the time off. And
Did you think it would be a healthy thing for you guys to do, given everything you've just been through the last couple of months?
yeah, I thought it was great. We had just been to California for a week with the kids, and that went really well. And so we had taken like a nice family trip, and it just seemed like it would be nice to take a couple's weekend away.
Had you forgotten about the affair and Mr. Miller or anything like that?
Not at all.
Okay. But you were still hopeful and working towards a better place.
Yes.
And you thought the trip might be a good part of that.
Yeah.
Okay. So she brings it up. She says maybe it doesn't have to be now, but you say, no, let's do it. And do you start to plan the trip?
Yeah, I do.
What day were you guys going to get to Oahu?
Sunday.
And what airline were you going to? Well, you flew over on an airline, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
From the Maui airport.
Yeah, I can't remember which airline.
But from the Maui airport.
Yeah, from Maui to Oahu.
Did you and Arielle check bags or carry on?
Just carry on.
Did you go through the TSA checkpoint with her and your carry-on bags?
Yes.
Were there any problems going through the TSA checkpoint?
Not at all. No, the bags weren't searched or anything.
You land on Oahu on Sunday now, I think you said?
Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. What was planned for the first day?
The first day, we were going to do like a couples spa therapy, like a couples massage at the hotel.
Okay.
And then just walk around Waikiki and shop and just kind of explore Waikiki.
And was that what you guys did?
Yes.
And how'd it go?
It went great. Yeah.
1 second, Your Honor. This is 172. Your Honor, may I approach with what's been marked as Defense Exhibit 172?
Yes.
Okay, I want to show you this. Gerhardt, you recognize that?
Yes.
What is that a photo of?
It's a photo of us at the hotel.
Okay, on the day, at the top it says March 23rd. Does this look like it was the day you guys got there?
Yeah, this is right after we got there.
Fair and accurate depiction of how you guys looked that day you got there?
Yes.
Your Honor, could I please move into evidence Defense 172?
Mr. Gardner. Okay. What is it marked for identification as Defendant's Exhibit 172 is received into evidence?
Could we please publish? Okay. Could we zoom in on the photo, Mr. Darks, please? So this is the day before March 24th, right?
Yes.
You guys had a good day? Yes?
Yes.
Did you plan this trip on Oahu to try and kill your wife?
No.
Were you trying to do something nice for her birthday?
Yes.
Okay, we can take that down. Let me also approach, please, or may I please approach with Exhibit D 173. Okay, may I approach, Your Honor? I'm going to show you this. What is that a photograph of?
That's a photo of us in the hotel room.
On the 23rd of March.
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate depiction of how you guys looked the day before this incident?
Yes.
All right. Your Honor, I'd move to admit D 173.
Mr. Gardner. Okay. What is it marked for identification as Defendant's Exhibit D173 is received into evidence?
May we please publish?
Yes.
Zoom in again. Is this the hotel room you guys are in?
Yes.
Okay, and it's the day before the hike, yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We can take that now. Did you go to dinner the first night?
Yes.
Second day you guys are going to be there. Were you planning on going on a hike?
Yes.
And why? Why a hike? How did that come up? Tell us about that. Is that something you guys would do often? Tell the jury about hiking.
Yeah. So we would hike often, and we would travel often too. So we pretty much wherever we went, we typically would hike at some point during the trip. And we weren't like crazy campers or anything like that, so we wouldn't do like a bunch of overnight things. But we like to do hikes, and she also wanted to see Oahu, and so I was looking for hikes that we could do that would kind of show the island.
And I'll get back to the particular hike and why you chose that one. But did Arielle enjoy hiking?
Yes,
Something you guys did all the time?
all the time.
Okay. I believe D-156 is in evidence. May I publish D-156, Your Honor?
Please.
Okay. Can we zoom in on that photo? So is that
Yeah, that's at Iao on Maui.
okay? And that's a hike you
It's
guys
like
would do.
it's like a secret hike behind the Iao monument that you can do if you know where it is.
Some steep cliffs here and there.
A lot of them, yeah.
All right, we can take that down. There was testimony about how the hikes that day on the Pali Puka trail, it made her feel uncomfortable, Arielle. Had you guys been on hikes or activities before with equal or greater heights and cliffs?
Definitely.
Did you guys ever go bungee jumping?
We did.
Tell the jury about that, where that was and what that was like.
Yeah, so we got engaged in South Africa. We did a 2-week trip there and met a lot of my family and friends and did a lot of sightseeing and got engaged. And as part of that trip, we went bungee jumping.
Yeah. Off of what?
It's called Blokran's Bridge. It's a bridge that spans a beautiful canyon in South Africa, and it's a 700-foot bungee jump. It's one of the tallest bungee jumps, one of the tallest commercial bungee jumps in the world.
And Arielle did that?
Yes.
Could we please also pull up Exhibit D-149? That's already in evidence. Let's let the court confirm it.
Please.
Okay, thank you. Would you guys go ziplining? Or
Yes.
have you gone ziplining?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Costa Rica.
That's in Costa Rica? Costa Rica?
Yes.
Okay. We can take that down. In your entire relationship, when there were, whether it would be bungee jumping, the hikes with steep cliffs, ziplining, had she ever expressed any concern about heights before?
We are both very cautious people, and we stay safe, and so we don't end up going close to the edge. Our friend Gianna likes to go and pose for crazy pictures, and we didn't pose for the super crazy pictures, but we would always do the hikes and without any concern.
Okay. Even ones with steep drop off.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Now, there was testimony from Detective E. Numa about some of the searches you did on hikes. And first of all, there was some searches in there about Maui hikes. Why were you searching hikes about Maui in that early March time period?
I was looking for hikes on Oahu, and then while I was looking at hikes, I just started kind of looking at hikes that I had meant to look up in Maui too. We hiked a lot on Maui, and had done all of the kind of the ones that are easier to find out about, and so we were talking to a bunch of people that are from Maui and getting recommendations for hikes. And so when I was looking up hikes, I was looking up some of the Maui hikes as well. I also looked up some hikes on Kauai that I'd heard about that I wanted to do in the future.
Did you also hike with Emil?
All the time.
Okay. On Maui?
On Maui, yeah. He loved hiking and jumping off waterfalls.
Okay. So you do the research. Do you come across the Pali Puka hike?
Yes.
And what did you learn about it, and why did you choose that one? What were the things that made you choose that one over the other ones that you researched?
It just seemed like a really cool spot that you end up in, where there's this hole in the mountain you can look through and take pictures. And the hike itself seemed fun because it provided a bunch of great views, but it was also kind of close to Waikiki, and it wasn't too long of a hike.
Why did it matter if it was really long or not?
We didn't want to spend the whole day out. So we were only going to be here from Sunday to Tuesday. And so Monday was the only day that we were here the whole day. And we wanted to hang out by the pool for part of the
plan. Go on this kind of shorter hike and then go hang out at the pool the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Did you also make a dinner reservation at
Yes.
Set?
Yes.
For that night?
Yes.
Did you explain to Ari ahead of time that you had found this Pali Puka hike?
Yes.
Did you tell her a little bit about it?
Yeah.
Did she object to it in any way?
No, not at all. She sounded excited.
Excuse me?
She sounded excited.
Okay. Second day. Now, you said the plan was short hike, spend some time at the pool, go to dinner. Let's talk about that day. So was that her birthday, we've heard?
Yes.
So you guys wake up and already in evidence is States Exhibit 133. May we publish that, Your Honor?
Yes.
Did you give her a birthday card that day?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we're not going to read the whole thing, but did you mean the words you wrote in there?
I did.
We can take that down. Did you also get her a birthday present?
I did.
What did you get her?
It was a necklace, like a koa wood silver necklace.
You wake up. What do you do before heading out to the hike?
We had breakfast at the hotel, and then next door to the hotel was a bakery where we got some coffee and some pastries.
Okay. May I approach with D175?
Yes.
What is this a photo of? Well, do you recognize it?
Oh, that's Ari at breakfast at the hotel.
Okay. Is it a fair and accurate depiction of how she appeared on the day before you left for the hike?
Yes.
All right. So this is a photo from that morning before the hike?
Yes.
All right. We can take that down. Thank you. Now, as were you going to drive to the hike?
Yeah, we had a rental car.
Now, did you receive an email that morning that you shared with Arielle before the hike dealing with life insurance?
Yes.
So first of all, let me ask you, let's back up a little bit. You talked about January, February, and you guys kind of get to this place where you're in counseling and you guys decide you're going to be together and you're working on it. Did there come a time when part of what you did during that time was assess the life insurance situation of you and Arielle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell the jury about that.
And really, it was pulling the trigger on life insurance. So I used to have life insurance in Pittsburgh through my employer, and didn't have life insurance when we moved to Maui. And it was always on the to-do list, and just got busy with life and other things. Originally looked into it the previous year, but never went so far as to contact the life insurance agent and actually go through with it. And in January, we were kind of working on big picture relationship things, and I was like, "Oh shoot, we still have to get life insurance."
Okay.
And so I talked to Ari, and we both applied for life insurance at the same time at the end of
Did you get the
January.
same amount?
No,
Why not?
the idea was that if one spouse would die, the other one would be able to continue on and live in the same house. And so it was, since I made significantly more money than she did, it was basically enough money that she could pay off the house if I would die.
So what so what was the plan in terms of the amount you were trying to get on your life for her?
1.5 million.
Okay. And then when you guys did the analysis of what, if something happened to her, you would still have your salary to pay for the house and whatnot.
That's right.
So what was the amount that was decided for her?
250,000.
Okay. And the 1.5 million that you were trying to get on your life, was she the beneficiary?
Yes.
And vice versa?
Yes.
So 250 if something happened to her, but 1.5 million to her if something happened to you. Is that right?
Yes.
Now, when you went about securing the 1.5 million on your life for her, did it happen in two parts?
It did.
And so the first part was for how much?
1 million.
And when did that roughly get approved in relation to March 24th?
A few weeks before.
Okay. The morning of March 24th, did you receive an email about the other 500?
Yes.
And what was the email?
That policy had gone through, and I needed to DocuSign the final documents to make it effective.
And did you DocuSign it that morning?
Yeah.
Your Honor, can I approach with D116?
Yes.
Dr. Konig, I'm showing you D116. I want you to look at it, and a lot of pages to it, but just the first page. Tell me what is D116?
This is the email from AAA Life that is asking me to DocuSign the policy.
Okay. And what date and time did you receive? Well,
I received it on Monday, March 24th, 2025 at 8:02 a.m.
okay. And is this a fair and accurate depiction of the email and attachments you received on the morning of the hike?
Yes.
So let's look at this, okay? So Gerhardt, at the top it says, please DocuSign. It has your name. It has the AAA life insurance. I guess that's AAA. Is that who you did?
Yes.
Is that who you got your life insurance from?
Yes.
And the date there is March 24th, 802. Is that right?
That's right.
And this was for the extra 500 you were adding on to the $1 million of life insurance you got for her a few weeks before, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you discuss this additional 500 that went through with Miss Konig and that the email came in and you DocuSign? Did you tell her about that before the hike on March 24th, 2025?
I did, because we were in the parking lot after the coffee shop, and I was on my phone. I was like, oh, you know what? The last of my life insurance just went through. They're asking me to DocuSign it, and so I was doing that.
All right, we can take that.
Just want to let her know that I'm not like just texting or something, like, because we were out together.
Okay. So you were telling her what it was that you were looking at.
You're nodding your head. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Thank you.
And so from that point on, if something happened to you and in an accident or whatnot, she would get $1.5 million, correct?
That's correct.
You guys drive up to the Pali Lookout after that?
Yes,
You get to the parking lot. Was it crowded when you got there?
it was.
Did you guys go? What did you guys do first after you parked?
We went to go. Actually, I think she went to the restroom first. No, there's a bathroom
Okay.
at the lookout,
Okay.
and then we went to the lookout.
You went to the lookout. Now, Miss Konig testified about this thing about how it looked like they were hikers trying to find a trailhead, and then you said, oh, wait, we want to be alone. Did that happen?
No,
How hard is it to find the trailhead?
it's not hard if you know where it is. It's not marked with a sign or anything, but it's right behind the bright blue porta potties, and there's a permanent rock wall, and it's like rock, like kind of almost like an altar right there. So if you know what to look for, it's really easy to find.
After looking at the lookout, did you guys start the hike?
Yes.
You head up the trail, and as you're heading up the trail, did you guys stop and take any photos?
Yes.
Okay, and can we? I believe S-131 is in evidence. Can we publish it? Let's just let the court confirm.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Okay, so is this a photo that was on right after you, kind of shortly before you? I mean, right when you started the hike? It was.
Yes.
And who posted that?
Ari did.
Okay, let's take that down. Now, continuing on the hike, what happens at some point? Did something happen that led to an argument?
Yes.
Tell the jury what happened that led to an argument. Well, first of all, how far up into the hike was it?
Not very far. Just like 5 minutes. Like after about 5 minutes of hiking, you get to a part where it flattens out a bit, and the edge isn't, like, the cliffside isn't open, but there's a couple of spots where you can get to the cliffside if you wanted to. So we're kind of still in that area, the same area that picture was taken.
Okay.
And Ari says, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something. I'm working on this project with Jeff Miller, and I'm gonna need to travel with him again, and I need you to be okay with that. Is that okay?"
And so she was kind of telling you, like, hey, there's this things at work going on. I need you to be okay with this. And asking you to trust her.
Yes.
Okay. And again, you mentioned you guys weren't talking about the affair at home anymore because of counseling, correct?
That's correct.
And you guys weren't talking about it in counseling a lot at that time?
We hadn't gotten to
that
kind of the core of it yet.
So she brings this up. What is your reaction to it?
I'm very surprised, and yeah.
Okay. Were you upset and angry?
I wasn't angry. I was surprised and upset, and I told her no. Like, I'm not okay with that, and not only am I not okay with that, like, I'm never going to be okay with that. Like, we haven't dealt with that part. Like, the only reason why I was okay with her still even working there is because we had placed these limits on their communication. But in my mind, like, she still needed at some point to quit her job, and this was only put on hold when while we were trying to deal with all these other things. She basically said like, well, I can't quit my job right now because I don't even know if I want to stay with you. So we were dealing with like the issues that she brought up first, but it's not like any of the affair had been resolved at all. Like it had just kind of been put on hold. And so
How did you feel that she was even that she would even think that this would even be okay?
Yeah, I mean, it made me realize that we were just not on the same page at all in terms of like, here I am just kind of like sublimating my feelings and focusing on her hurt and waiting patiently for her to do the same to me. And this made me feel like she wasn't intending on doing that ever.
So what did you say back to her? Were you guys kind of arguing about it?
Yeah, we were for sure arguing.
Okay, and then so what did you say anything to her?
I just said,
out.
yeah, I said like I need you to move out. Like this has gone far enough. I need you to move out. And I'm going to tell people why you're moving out, and I'm going to show them what you did, because like unless you face this and unless you take full accountability for this, like we're never going to get through this.
So and that was like after you guys had been kind of arguing for a while about. I mean, an argument starts. You guys are arguing. You're telling her no. You're telling her all these things.
Yeah, I mean the argument developed more slowly than what just happened, and there was other things said too. But that's how it culminated with you telling her, well, if that's the case, if that's how you feel, you got to move on. Yes.
Okay. What did she say anything to you about her mom and Gianna?
She did. So like earlier in the conversation, she had be like, well, what if my mom chaperones my work trips with him? And I was like, no, like I'm still not okay with that. Like that's not a long-term viable solution. And then later in the argument, when things kind of got heated, she was like, well, actually, my mom just said that she'll chaperone the trip and she thinks Jeff is interesting and can't wait to meet him. And I'm like, you're obviously telling them a whole different version of what happened than me.
So in the argument, in her effort to say for you to be okay with it and go on the trip, she said, well, what if my mom chaperones me?
Yes.
After, it comes to this point in the argument where you say, well, you know what, you got to move out there. I'm going to tell everybody what you did. I mean, it was it got to kind of it was not a good conversation, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you do next?
I stomped off. I just stomped off up the trail. And this was a point where we were both really kind of just upset with each other. And I went one way and she went the other way.
How far up did you go?
5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. Why did you turn around?
I was kind of at a loss of not kind of a loss. I just didn't want to be there. Like
did it make sense for you to keep going on this hike?
No. I like 5 to 10 minutes in, I was like realizing kind of where I was, and I was like, I don't want to be here. I want to go home and like start dealing with what we need to deal with. I don't want to, I got to the point where it opens up and it's like these beautiful views, and I'm like there by myself and upset, and I was like, I don't want to be on this hike by myself, upset, and I don't want to do this hike. I'm going to come back and do this hike at a different time when I'm happy. I was really looking forward to doing the hike.
When you headed back down, were you expecting Arielle to be where you had left her?
No.
Where were you expecting her to be?
I thought she went to the car because I saw her head down the trail.
And there was testimony that when you said when you got there, you said, "Oh, you're still here." Did you say that to her?
Yes.
And is that because you assumed she had gone back to the parking lot?
Yes.
How far away from the parking lot were you guys when this argument started?
Like 5 minutes. Okay. Or less, probably. Yeah.
Okay. Now you get back. What is her demeanor and behavior like now?
Like a 180 reversal, basically. So she was like extremely apologetic and said, basically, I'm so sorry. You're right. Like, I need to take accountability and like, let's just, not ruin the day. I don't want to ruin the day. I don't want to ruin our trip. And let's keep talking about this in therapy. And she said like, I won't travel with Jeff.
Did you guys end up taking a selfie?
Yeah. First she was like, again, like almost manic, like super happy, and was trying to basically, get me to be in a better mood. And she was like, I'm going to climb this tree, take pictures of me in this tree. And so she handed me her phone and I took some pictures of her in the tree. And then after that, she said, let's take a selfie by the cliff's edge.
That was her idea.
Yes.
Okay. Did you guys take one?
We did.
And what happened after that?
Right after the selfie, I just remember kind of staying at the edge there and looking over the edge and just kind of still in thought about everything that had just happened and what's going on. And then I felt like a shove, and I was almost pushed over the edge.
You felt a shove. Okay. Who shoved you?
Ari did.
What did you do right after that?
Barely caught myself and turned around and looked at her and was like, "What the fuck was that?" Like,
Turned around and it was like, what, like, was like kind of in shock. Like, what the fuck was that?
yes,
Okay. And then did you move towards it?
yeah, I did. I was like, just asking her, like, what was that? And started walking towards her.
Okay.
Because at this point, she was like 5 or 10 feet away from me.
So you walk towards her, and you mentioned when you're walking towards you, where were your hands?
Out.
Okay. Now, did you get close to her?
Yes, eventually, yeah. Well,
And by the way, when you start walking towards her, is she saying anything?
not initially, but I turned around and I'm asking her, like, what the hell's, what the fuck just happened and what's going on? And as I'm starting to walk towards her, she starts yelling.
She starts yelling.
Yeah, help me, help me.
Okay. And then what happens?
And then I just keep walking to her, like, what are you doing?
Were you
And I
telling
get-
her, like, why are you screaming?
Yeah, what are you doing? And I get to her and I'm like, touching her, just putting my hands on her arms. And I was like, what are you doing? What's going on?
What happens then?
She keeps yelling and she kind of grabs my wrists and throws herself on the ground and pulls me down with her.
So now you guys are on the ground.
Yes.
When you're on the ground, what starts to happen?
She's holding on to me and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but I'm also at this point trying to let go of, like, trying to get free because she's like actively holding on to me. Like she has her leg like wrapped around one of my legs and like is actively holding on to me and is yelling. And so I'm trying to, get free and I get my one arm free and I try to use it to get my other arm free. And she grabs me by the testicles and
Let me stop you there. Did you ever, in the course of this whole thing you described so far, ever try to pull her towards, push her off, or drag her towards the cliff's edge?
no, not at all.
Okay. So you're on the ground. She's kind of holding on to you. You guys are, would you just kind of like a scuffle going on?
Yes.
Okay. And her legs wrapped around you.
Yes.
You mentioned we got right up to the point where you said she grabbed your testicles. Is that right?
Yes.
How hard did she grab it?
I mean, this was, yeah, like,
Pretty hard.
she, like, was holding on to me by my testicles, basically, like that hard.
Okay. Did she grab it and let go, or did she grab it and hold on?
She grabbed it and held on.
Now, what happens after she does that?
Then I try to free my testicles. And so I'm like thrashing with, and I get both hands free and I'm trying to get her to let go of my testicles. And then she hits me with a rock on the side of the face.
Okay. She's holding on to your testicles. You're kind of focused on that, obviously. And then at some point while you're focused on that, you
And it happened all really fast.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, I'm glad you raised that up. Was this like happening slowly where you had
it's
time
all
to-
happened within like, I mean, probably less than a minute, maybe
quickly?
slightly more than a minute, but I mean, 2 minutes or something.
but you weren't timing.
From the moment that like we were on the ground and she was grabbing my testicles was like
It happened quickly.
everything after the grabbing of the testicles happened very quickly.
Okay. And you weren't timing it or anything.
No.
This is just your estimate. Okay. So now she's holding on to you, she's squeezing your testicles, and you kind of dealing with that. And she's on the ground and you're kind of on top of her.
Yes.
Okay. And you said then you felt you got hit with the rock.
Yes.
Where'd you get hit?
On the left side of my face.
Many times.
She kept doing it. The first blow she landed really well, and after that I was able to block
Okay.
fairly well. She did like land a couple more, but not as bad as the first one.
Does she still got your testicles?
Yeah, so she's like holding my testicle and just like
Okay.
hitting me like this.
And now do you stop dealing with your
I'm
testicles?
just focused on the rock at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it hurt when you got hit with the rock?
It did.
Could we publish what's in evidence as Exhibit D30, Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. Gerhardt, is this where you got hit with the rock?
Yes.
Is that the area?
Yes.
We can take that down. Now, you get hit with the rock. Explain to the jury what happens next and why.
I was able to wrestle the rock out of her hand.
Does she still have her testicles?
Yes.
Still squeezing them?
Yes.
What
And
do you do?
I was able to, like, so we're like, she's hitting me and I'm like blocking, and then I start, like, and I get
Is
her
there a
wrist.
scuffle over the rock?
Yes.
Is it near her face?
Yes. I mean,
Okay.
it's
And then what
right.
happens?
And I finally get the rock.
What'd you do?
I hit her with the rock.
How many times do you think you hit her?
I hit her 2 times.
And when you did, was she still holding on to your testicles?
Yes.
At least initially?
Yes.
Why did you hit her? Why did you react that way?
Just on instinct to defend myself.
How fast was this all happening?
Hmm.
Pretty fast?
Really fast.
In between when she hit you with the rock and in between the time she hit you with the rock and when you hit her with the rock, were you able to safely retreat and get away from her?
No.
Yeah. Why not?
She was holding on to me.
Including your testicles?
Yes.
Did you hit her in the face or the eye with the rock?
No.
Where you said 2 times, where did you hit her?
On the side of the head.
So we've seen these photos of the stellate laceration. You caused that by hitting her, right?
Yes.
Did you continue to hit her after those 2 hits?
No.
And why not?
Because she stopped fighting. She let go of my testicles, and I was
Okay.
able to stand up.
And then you stopped.
Yes.
There was testimony about the 2 witnesses. Did you stop hitting her because the witnesses showed up?
No. I didn't know that they were there until after I stood up.
Did you see blood?
Yes.
Was there a lot of blood?
There was a lot of blood.
Did you see her kind of scoot down towards the witnesses?
Yes.
Did you try to stop her in any way?
No.
You let her get to them.
Yes.
Did you hear her yelling to the witnesses, he's trying to kill me?
Yes.
Gerhardt, did you have any syringes on the mountain that day?
No.
Did you try to poke her or stab her with any syringes?
No.
Okay. Now, Gerhardt, she scoots away. She's now with the 2 witnesses. You see a lot of blood. What do you physically do next?
I'm just in a daze, and I just kind of watch her crawl away and then leave with the other 2 hikers.
Okay, she got the hikers. What do you do next? Was her bag and your bag there?
Yeah. So I just kind of reflexively gathered up all of our stuff, and then I start walking up the trail.
Let me ask you this. At this point, immediately following what just happened, you saw, you guys had this scuffle. You saw a lot of blood. What was your state of mind and emotional state like right now, right at this point that we're at?
Severe emotional distress.
How did you feel at that time about the fact that you had responded and defended yourself?
Horrible.
Let me finish the question.
Sorry.
How did you feel about the fact that even though you say it was, you were defending yourself, how did you feel about that she was
I
bleeding?
felt horrible.
Did you ever plan on hurting her that day?
No.
Did you ever want to hurt her that day?
No.
You reacted to defend yourself in the heat of that moment. You said yes.
Yes.
But did you still feel bad about it?
Yes.
You mentioned you were in some kind of extreme emotional distress, I think you said. Okay.
Yes.
Did you become, at some point after that, suicidal?
Yes.
Why? Tell the jury why. To the best of your understanding.
I just felt hopeless at that point in terms of everything. Like I felt horrified about what I did to her, that I caused this to her, that I had resorted to violence against my wife, the person who I loved the most in the world, and just kind of felt hopeless in terms of our relationship too.
Okay. And that being said, I mean, in that moment, were you defending yourself when you reacted that way?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
What did you do next? Now you're heading up the hill. What do you do next?
I just kind of kept walking up and kind of got to the same place that I had made it the last time, where the trail opens up and you're finally on the ridge. And
Were you thinking about jumping?
I'd already decided. I decided to jump, and kind of last second made the decision to call Emil just to say goodbye.
So this incident happens. You talked about the emotional state you were in. Did you believe your marriage was over?
Yes.
Did you believe you heard her yelling to the other people that he's trying to kill me?
Yes.
You saw how bloody she was?
Yes.
Did you believe that your career could be over?
Yes.
Did you became suicidal? Who's the one person in the world you wanted to call
My son Emil.
before you jumped?
Yes.
Were you in a good state of mind when you made that call?
No.
How do you feel about the fact that you put him in that position and made that call to him?
So many feelings, because he saved my life that day.
Stop. And then you not to jump?
He saved my life that day, but I put him in this position where he is now, where he thinks I tried to kill her. And for the last year, he's thought that. And
You heard him yesterday only refer to you as the defendant and not as dad.
yes.
You blame him? Sorry, one.
No, I don't blame him. I had such good intentions of calling him, but
In the sense that you wanted to say goodbye.
I wanted just to say goodbye and tell him how, he's an amazing person, and he should live his life to the fullest. And
Okay. Okay. Let me stop you there. Okay. Let's talk a little more specifics about that. Okay. First of all, where were you when you was it a FaceTime?
it was FaceTime, yes.
Okay. Where were you when you did this FaceTime call?
It was in a spot where the trail wasn't right next to the cliff edge, because the cliff edge at that point wasn't really an edge. It was like a 10-foot kind of sloped part, and then the edge. And so I was basically between the cliff edge and the trail, kind of hanging on to the side of the mountain.
Was it kind of steepish area?
Yeah, very steep.
And were you kind of like on the side of the mountain? So you gotta.
Yes, sorry.
Okay. And so just to be clear, the place you FaceTimed him from, was that the place that the incident took place?
No.
Okay. On the FaceTime, would it have looked like you were on kind of the edge of a mountain?
Yes.
Were you on speakerphone?
Yes.
I mean, like holding it where he could see your face?
Yes.
No.
And I showed him the view and where I was. Like,
there was testimony from police officers that it was a windy day and notoriously windy area. Do you recall it being pretty windy that day?
it was windy, yeah, up there.
So you're on the side of a cliff, mountain. You have on speaker on FaceTime. It's windy. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. You were extremely emotional at that time?
Yes.
So that's the context of this phone call, correct?
Yes.
Did you tell him that Arielle you were calling him to say goodbye, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Was your purpose to explain to him every last detail of what happened?
No.
But you did tell him several things, right?
Yes.
Did you tell him that Arielle had been having an affair?
I did.
Did you tell him that, she got hurt, her head was bleeding?
Yeah, after he asked about the blood on my shirt.
Now, did the word kill come up in the conversation?
It probably did.
What do you recall explaining to him about that?
I don't recall explaining. The only thing I can think of is that I said that she said I tried to kill her.
Okay. So let's break back up.
Yeah.
So you told him that the blood was hers, yes?
Yes.
And you're telling him that you're gonna jump.
And yes.
Okay. And did you tell him something about, well, we're gonna get to the part about the police. But you're telling him about how you're gonna jump, and you're saying you heard her say to the witnesses he tried to kill me. Okay. Were you explaining that to Emil?
No. So
What
I
were you
was
saying?
I was talking to myself at the same time too, and I was basically saying like, because I remember saying like, "Wow, this is like so hard," because it turns out killing yourself is a hard thing to do once you actually like go and do it.
Okay.
And so I was like talking to him about like saying goodbye and she had an affair and those things, but then I was also kind of like talking to myself and I think I was saying to myself like, she said I tried to kill her. She said I tried to kill her.
Okay. Were you confessing to him that you were trying to kill Ari that day?
No.
Okay. Did you have an intention to kill Ari that day?
No.
Okay. Would you have said it that way? I tried to kill Ari that day.
No.
Okay. But you don't dispute that the word kill probably came up.
No.
Okay. And can you understand how Emil in that conversation could have got that impression?
Yes.
Okay. So what else happens in this first call? What do you mean when you say he tried to convince you not to jump?
He just, and I mean, to his credit, I mean, he just reminded me that I had a choice, basically.
Okay. Reminded me to have a choice.
Yeah. Because he said, like, you know, do you really have to do this?
After that, you got off the phone with him? You didn't jump, right?
No.
Okay. There was a second call an hour later,
Yes.
and he testified that he was at his Ari's parents' house. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during that call, did he tell you what he told to Ari's parents?
Yes.
What did he tell you that he told Ari's parents?
He said, well, yeah, he said, I told them that you tried to kill Ari.
Okay. And what was your reaction to that?
I was like, why would you say that? And then,
You didn't mean that in the first call?
right.
Okay, so you're telling him why
And I didn't, at that point, I was like, so confused at why he would say that.
Okay. And then what did you say to him after that?
But I said, I gotta go. I gotta get off the phone.
And did you say to him, because you were going to kill yourself again?
Yes.
Did you say to him,
I said, I never mind. I got to think about this. I'm probably going to kill myself.
okay. Did you say something to him about, I got to go so the police won't find me?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you mean by that? Why were you trying to avoid the police?
I didn't want my choice of killing myself taken away at that time until I had made the decision to either do it or not.
Okay. While you were still deciding if you were going to kill yourself, you didn't want to be seized by the police.
That's correct.
Because once they seize you, you wouldn't be able to kill yourself.
Yes.
Okay. After the second call, what did you do?
I just stayed on the mountain, kind of in the same general area.
Okay. Were you actively moving around, dodging the investigators?
Not really. I moved around a few times, but I mostly just sat and actually like was in and out of sleep most of the day. If like my recollection was that like a couple of hours had passed and then I realized what time it was.
Okay.
And it was getting.
Let me ask you this.
Getting
There's
dark.
been some talk about Arielle's bag. Did you initially have the bag?
I did.
What'd you do? What happened to the bag?
I honestly don't remember where I left. I must have left it at some point on the mountain
As you were
during that time.
during that time. Okay. Now, your bag that you had with you.
Yes.
What did you use that bag for?
It's a little crossbody Patagonia bag, and it's the bag that I take to and from work and home every day.
Okay. You mentioned walking to work. Do you walk to work?
Not every day, but often, yes.
And when you do walk to work, you bring that bag.
When I walk to work and when I don't walk to work too. Yeah. So this is the bag that I take into the hospital with me, and it has like my water bottle for the day, my sunglasses, snacks, paperwork for work,
Paperwork and sometimes
pens,
pens.
and yeah.
Okay.
Not sometimes pen, always a pen. I that's like the one thing I have to leave in my house with because I'm writing all day long, recording all the cases that I do.
Did you end up taking the SIM card out of your phone?
I did.
How did you remove it?
With a paper clip.
Now, you end up He said it seemed like a couple of hours, but obviously it was longer than that.
Yes.
At some point, do you come down off the mountain?
Yes.
Okay. And why did you do that? Tell the jury why you did that.
I decided I wasn't going to kill myself. And then I realized that it was going to be dark soon. And so I decided to throw myself in.
And so you actually came off the mountain when the sun was still out? I mean,
Yes.
well, when it was still lit?
It was still lit. Yeah, it was still light out.
And that was to turn yourself in.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't want to be caught, what would you have done?
Kept hiding until dark. And
Okay. So you come down, and there was talk about you walking, down the road when the 3 officers got there.
yes.
And were you trying to flee from them?
No.
Okay. So explain that to the jury. What happens when they pull up to you?
So I was walking down the road, and I was in the little grassy area between the road and the
The one that was on the photograph?
bushes.
When I was like that little
Yeah.
grassy area?
And I heard a car behind me, and I looked, and it was like a minivan, and I just thought it was like tourists coming back from the Pali, and I was like, wow, I can't believe there's still tourists at the Pali. And so I just looked at it briefly, and then kept walking, but then the car stopped, kind of opposite me,
Okay. What happened?
and I saw these 2 huge guys jump out of it, and they're both dressed the same, and I could see a police badge on the one.
Let me
that's
stop you there. So
closer
you knew
to
they
me.
were police.
Yeah, immediately.
Okay. And so what happens then?
They yell, "Please get down on the ground."
What'd you do?
I lay down on the ground,
And what did they do?
on the grass, in the grassy area.
What did they do?
They ran over to me and held me down and struck me several times and handcuffed me.
Okay. Did you fall on your face with the officer falling on you in that transaction or interaction?
No officer fell on me at all during the entire thing, and I did not fall on my face.
Did they hit or punch you in the face?
No.
But they did, as they testify, strike you a couple of times.
Yes.
In where?
My ribs and like my upper legs, like thighs.
Okay. So after this moment, now you're arrested. Did you have injuries from that whole day?
Yes.
Okay. We talked about the injury to the side of your face.
Yes.
What other injuries did you have after you were arrested?
Just my ribs.
Okay. Did you have any bite marks on your arm?
No.
Did you have any scratch marks on your face or body?
No.
And HPD photographed your injuries.
Yes.
Now, some additional questions, and we're getting close to the end of my examination, Gerhardt. I know it's been a long day. Your work bag on Maui. Well, let me ask you this before I go there. The bag that you had on,
Yes.
on the hike, did you see the big blood stain on the back of your shirt?
Yes.
What was that from?
It's from the bag
Okay,
that I was.
explain that.
So during the scuffle, my bag, I was holding both bags. I put both bags down to take the selfie, and I had both bags again.
Why did you have her bag?
Because she had given it to me when she was climbing up on
Okay.
the tree. And then
The scuffle happened.
the scuffle happened, and my bag both bags, went flying basically, but my bag must have been right by her head, because after she left, when I picked my bag up, there was a bunch of blood on the back of it.
And then you put the bag on your back, and that's
Yes.
how the blood got on your shirt.
Yes.
Now, your work bag. You're an anesthesiologist, correct?
Yes.
And that work bag was always on Maui, is that right?
That's correct.
Do you work in more than one location?
Yes.
And why did you have medications and syringes in that bag?
That's the bag that I use in the operating room every day. And I have medications in it that I use for work. Most of the medications that are in there are used for emergencies when I'm on call.
Okay, let me ask you about that. When you're on call, do you sometimes you're at home and you have to rush in to is it always the same location?
Yeah, so when we're on call, we're always on call for the hospital. So
Okay.
I work at several locations, but all of the call shifts are for the hospital, really close to my house. And so I can take call from home. Oftentimes I'm in scrubs already, and I have this work bag either right by the door or in the car. That way I can respond directly to either the emergency room or to labor and delivery or to the operating room without having to go to my locker.
Could we please publish State's Exhibit 94? Your Honor, I believe it's in evidence. 1 second while you double check.
I believe it is as well.
Okay.
Yes, you can proceed.
Okay, so this was testimony was this was in a bag. Just a couple of things. So like, what is this? What is this?
Those are bags of saline. The one on the left is still sealed, and the one on the right has medication in it.
Okay, and this is stethoscope. Is that right?
Yes.
What is this thing up here? This and that.
Oral airways for emergencies and elective surgery.
Okay, these are all stuff that you had at home regularly when you were either on call or depending on where you were going to work.
Yeah, this is everything that's usually in my bag, and it's everything that I would need to respond to different emergencies.
Okay. Could we please also publish States Exhibit 103 that's also in evidence? Okay, this was also in your bag according to them. Is that your work ID?
Yes.
Okay. The last shift you had before this trip, we can take that down. Where had you been working?
At the hospital.
Okay. Do you remember in what unit?
Labor and delivery.
Okay. So after that shift, would it be normal for you to have that bag?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that?
Because I keep the bag with me for the entire shift. It's a 24-hour shift. I start at 7 a.m. and I keep going until 7 a.m. the next day. And so when my shift ends, unless I'm actively at the hospital taking care of something there, I'm at home when my shift ends. And so I was at home when my shift ended that day, and that's why I had the bag with me.
Oh, you're at home because you're on call.
Yes.
Okay. Now, prior to this trip to Oahu, did Arielle know about this bag and the fact they had medication syringes in it?
Absolutely. I've had it at home often.
Okay. Now, just a few last questions, Gerhardt. You testified that you reacted to defend yourself when she hit you with the rock, and it's all happening fast, and she has your testicles, you grab it and you hit her, and it was all happening fast. So you were defending yourself in that moment, is that right?
Yes.
And did you stop as soon as she stopped?
Yes.
Okay. But you also said you felt horrible about it.
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury how those things can coexist?
It's, I believe in the right to self-defense, right? But I mean, in the moment, it was kind of an impulse. It wasn't like a conscious, like, I'm going to analyze this from like a legal perspective. It was, but yet the result of it was harm to my wife.
Okay. How do you feel about that? She's got hurt.
Horrible.
You've learned that she is filing for divorce and seeking full custody of your children, yes?
Yes.
Do you want joint custody?
Yes. More than any. That's
okay. And there's been testimony that you've been in custody, yes?
Yes.
Have you been able to speak with your two young boys from jail?
No.
Gerhardt, did you have a plan to kill your wife on the mountain that day?
No.
Did you try to throw her off a cliff?
No.
Did you try to stab her with syringes?
No.
When you hit her with the rock twice, why did you do it?
In self-defense.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, sir. Bernard, can you take a cross-examination? Well, can we approach
I have a fairly lengthy calendar in the morning, so it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to have you come back at 10. Start up at 10 o'clock. I'm going to ask you, planner, to be here for the full day tomorrow. I think we all sense that we're getting close to the end of the presentation of evidence, but I don't know how long it's going to be. So plan on being here for the full day tomorrow. What I anticipate is that the jury will get the case for deliberation sometime early or mid next week. So we're actually ahead of schedule. So I think that's what we're looking at in terms of scheduling. We'll get a better idea midday or end of tomorrow. Plan on being here all day tomorrow. Okay. Try to learn about this case outside of the courtroom. keep an open mind. Don't talk to anybody about this case. And follow those rules. Don't watch any of the media in this case. So leave your notebooks on the chair. Have a safe drive home tonight. See you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. All right. Thank you very much. We'll adjourn for
Off record, you said 10 o'clock?
Yeah, he hasn't come up. Let's talk about schedule.